Hello and welcome to the first in a series of interviews from Melbourne, Australia, as we report from the round-trip Tyre Recycling Conveyor Belt Summit, organised by Tyre Stewardship Australia and Tyrewise. Now, in our first interview, we're talking to Vanessa Lenihan, the head of Future Fuels and Decarbonisation at Viva Energy. Now, you may have seen that Viva Energy Australia recently signed an MOU with Klean Industries to develop a tyre recycling facility and TPO. The facility could be capable of processing 80,000 tonnes of ELTs per year, which will be a huge portion of Australia's tyre arisings. Now, we wanted to talk to Vanessa all about this MOU and also about what her vision was for potential sustainable aviation fuel mandates in Australia, as well as what TPO can be useful in their product portfolio. And without any further ado, here is our interview right now. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Tyre Recycling Podcast. And we are live reporting here from Melbourne at the round-trip Tyre Recycling Conveyor Belt Summit organised by TSA and Tyrewise. Today I'm joined by Vanessa Lenihan, Head of Future Fuels and Decarbonisation at Viva Energy. Vanessa, thanks for joining us today. And first of all, could you talk to us about Viva Energy and what role end-of-life tyres are now playing in the company's work?
Yeah, so Viva Energy is one of Australia's leading energy companies. We supply about a quarter of Australia's fuel needs. We currently operate the Geelong Refinery. We're one of the last two remaining refineries in Australia, and we produce petrol, diesel, jet fuel, bitumen, and other specialty products at that refinery. And we are also the exclusive licensee of Shell branded fuels in Australia. And we also have a very impressive network of over 1,300 service stations across Australia. So we see Tyre Pyrolysis Oil in particular as a potential new feedstock into the Geelong Refinery as we start to think about what that refinery needs to look like into the future.
Awesome. And, you've touched upon Tyre Pyrolysis Oil. And we've seen that you've signed an MOU with Klean Industries to develop TPO, and that facility could be capable of processing 80,000 tonnes of ELTs per year. Could you talk to me a little bit about what stage you're at in that MOU and developing a plan, maybe?
Yeah, so there's a couple of parts to the development of that particular project. So Klean Industries have been an important partner. We don't believe that we can do anything in isolation in this space. The energy transition, it's difficult. We need to have good partners across the supply chain, and Klean Industries and their technology is one of those partners. We're working with them to understand what that business case looks like and how we can make sure that the whole of the supply chain is in place and creating value. We've also been trialling tyre pyrolysis oil through the Geelong Refinery, and in May we processed 10 tonnes of that tyre pyrolysis oil that came in from Poland, and that is giving us confidence that the Geelong Refinery can actually process that material.
Yeah, I saw that you processed the 10 tonnes of the TPO into a range of products, which is obviously a good sign. Do you have any idea if this is potentially going to be a new plan? Would it be located at the same location in Melbourne?
No, so it won't be located at the Geelong Refinery. Yeah. It will be located away from the refinery. Okay. And the tyre pyrolysis oil would be delivered into the refinery and process it through our catalytic cracker.
Okay. And so, how will the investment be funded for a potential project? Is it like an investment that will be entirely funded by Viva Energy, or is Klean Industries participating, or are you licensing the technology? How would it work?
So it is a Klean Industries project, mm-hmm. And how they are funding that project is something they're working through now. Mm-hmm. We see ourselves as an offtaker of the tyre pyrolysis oil. We see that's our role in supporting these initiatives to get off the ground, and so our role will be as an offtaker for that product.
Okay, so you would take the oil. I imagine in that deal, like Klean Industries would take potentially the steel and the RCB.
Yeah, and so they're working through with other partners in the supply chain in order to make sure that they can get a resilient supply chain and make sure that each of those end products are going into a value-added process.
Awesome, and there's quite a lot of tyre pyrolysis partners out there. What made you opt for Klean Industries?
So there was a number of reasons. We did do a technology scan, and so they were identified within our technology scan as a potential supplier or a potential technology partner. And in addition to that, they are actively seeking to establish in this market. And so that was the other component that made it attractive to work with Klean. They've been investing time and energy in establishing themselves in this market. There is a number of technology providers out there, and that whole market in terms of that technology is evolving, and it's certainly got some challenges ahead of it.
No, absolutely. There's it's quite a few providers out there, and as you said, it is quite a rapidly evolving space at the moment. Obviously, the plan is for the plant to potentially take 80,000 tons of end-of-life tyres per year, which is which I think is over 10% of Australia's tyre risings, according to TSA's material recovery report, which is a significant amount. Do you have any plans for how you'd guaranteeing the feedstock? Do you have any potential agreements lined up with regards to that?
Again, Klean are working with suppliers in the supply chain to make sure that they're putting those contracts in place. And our role is really making sure that they've got an end market for the Tyre Pyrolysis Oil and that it's going into a value-added process. And as being one of the only two refineries that can actually take that product and refine it, we think we play an important role in helping establish this new industry in Australia.
Awesome. And what products do you want to create using TPO? I imagine advanced road fuels and sustainable aviation fuel would be the main two you're looking at.
Yeah, so the main one that we're looking at the moment is a diesel product. So going through our catalytic cracker, it cracks into a whole range of different product streams. There's about 6 streams that come out of that. Unfortunately, jet is not one of those streams, so that it is a process that is away from our jet pool at the moment, and that is to do with some product quality restrictions that are in place on jet fuel. And then we use mass balance free attribution to then allocate the carbon benefits of those molecules to a particular stream of material stream. So for us at this stage, it would either be renewable diesel or potentially a marine fuel.
Do you see big opportunities then for TPO in your product portfolio going forward?
Yeah, and we need the Australian government to start to recognise Tyre Pyrolysis Oil as a potential contributor to a lower carbon diesel. It's certainly, we see it as part of the mix of different feedstocks that we should be considering processing through the refinery to help reduce the carbon intensity of our fuels.
You said you mentioned the Australian government there. What would you like to see? What would you like to see from them in that regard?
There's a number of policy pieces that we need to see. So one of it is, and the main one, which is to see co-processing of any feedstock being recognised in the carbon accounting frameworks, so that customers can claim the carbon benefits of those products. Right now, that is something that's not in place. And the second is how they value Tyre Pyrolysis Oil and how it contributes towards lower carbon feedstocks. And so we'd like to see some recognition of Tyre Pyrolysis Oil as potentially playing a role.
Awesome. And obviously there's quite a few opportunities here. We touched a little bit on aviation fuel. What are your thoughts on TPO as a feedstock for sustainable aviation fuel, and what opportunities could you see there?
I think the way that we think about low carbon liquid fuels is we need as many different sources of feedstocks as we can get, and it's going to need to go to a variety of different fuels. So for us, renewable diesel is a key component, or diesel, so road transport. Sustainable aviation fuel, there's some higher thresholds that we need to pass through in order to be able to get it into that part of the fuel pool, and that's something that we're working through now to understand the restrictions that are in place, what can we overcome, and where is the best place for this material to go.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it just before the interview. You'll be aware that Wastefront in the UK are making a big bet on this, and they're potentially looking to take 1/3 of the country's tyre risings. So this use of end-of-life tyres could be a huge answer to the waste problem that we have in the UK and potentially here in Australia as well.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're certainly following that case study. We're really excited. We do see that they're leading the way and could potentially make it easier and open new pathways for us. And I think the where we see the benefit with Tyre Pyrolysis Oil is because it does fix two problems. One is how do we get a lower carbon? How do we decarbonise our fuel pool as a whole? But also how do we start to utilise these waste streams and keep them in Australia and see them adding value to our economy rather than being either sent to landfill or being dumped or being sent overseas.
No, absolutely. And I was at a Tyre recycling briefing day in the UK recently, and Wastefront made a presentation. I learned quite a lot from that. And one of the things that they pointed out was a Sustainable Aviation Fuel mandate in the UK. Now, it's my understanding that there isn't one here in Australia. The UK has a SAF mandate of 2% in 2025, 10% by 2030, and 22% by 2040. Is that something that maybe Viva Energy would like to see here in Australia?
I think what we're excited about is the recent government announcements around low carbon liquid fuels, around the decarbonisation, the policies that are coming in, and in particular the net zero targets that have been set by government. And I think it's a really interesting 12 months ahead of us as we start to see that policy evolve. And we really need to be coming to the table with government to demonstrate what some of these potential pathways can look like, and how do we as an industry partner with government to show that there is solutions and viable solutions out there. And though all of those should be mixed together to contribute towards whatever targets or mandates or demand side measures, a whole range of different policy levers that will need to be put in place to make investment possible.
Yeah, and thinking, about once again about Tyre-derived oil. Could you talk to me about how then that overall fits into your broader decarbonisation and circular economy strategy? And also maybe you can touch upon if there's any other waste to fuels sort of initiatives that you're looking at.
Yeah, so we have really been on a journey looking at, we believe the Geelong Refinery is a really important community asset, and not only the infrastructure that we have there, but the skills and experience of the team at that refinery can really start to help pull new feedstocks into that refinery and start to pivot it towards a circular economy and a lower carbon economy plant. So we've been working on a number of initiatives, including used cooking oil to create a biocircular polymer, soft plastics recycling project that we're doing with Cleanaway to look at how can we provide an end-to-end solution for recycled polypropylene, and also then how we can look at agricultural feedstocks, tallow, and different pathways for used cooking oil to produce a lower carbon diesel. So again, we see it all as part of that mix. And how do we utilise that refinery to achieve that? But we're also looking at other projects. So we have got a Sustainable Aviation Fuel project that we're rolling out in Brisbane, where we're repurposing a tank that we have in our fuel pool up there to be able to hold neat SAF. And we've been co-funded with ARENA for that, and that's allowing us to provide the downstream infrastructure that companies are going to need to have in place in order to get neat SAF into airports. So we think that it's a challenging time ahead of us. There's a lot of investment required, and we need to make these small steps forward, these small pivots of what existing infrastructure we have to make a difference.
Fantastic. And, before we round up, we're obviously speaking the day before tomorrow, the round trip Tyre Recycling Conveyor Belt Summit. From your perspective and Viva Energy's perspective, why is it important for you guys to be here and find out more about the Tyre recycling space?
We really do believe that the Geelong Refinery can play a really important role for opening up pathways for companies who may be wanting to invest in tyre pyrolysis or tyre recycling. We need to look at how can we incorporate their different feedstock streams into the refinery. So for us, it's about showcasing the infrastructure that Australia has that people may be interested in helping enable or open up investments like we have been with Klean Industries.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Vanessa. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to our viewers before we round up?
No, just that we were really excited to see such interest in the conference. It's going to be a really exciting 2 days, and I think to see so many people coming together from so many different parts of the supply chain, again, we strongly believe it really does require everyone to come together and contribute to the solution in some way.
Awesome. Well, I hope you enjoy the show tomorrow. And yeah, that's all for now.
Okay, thanks.
Now that brings to an end our very first episode from the round trip Tyre Recycling Conveyor Belt Summit here in Melbourne, Australia. A big thanks to Vanessa for participating, and we'll see you very shortly with another episode from Australia. Until then, goodbye.